Queen Ria of the Tyrrhenian Empire had always harbored a deep hatred for humans, seeing them as reckless, destructive, and unworthy of the stars. It was ironic, then, that it was a human who saved her life during one of the most pivotal moments of intergalactic war. Captain Michael Stanton knew the gravity of the situation as he knelt beside the convulsing alien queen, administering a universal antidote. Hours earlier, the Tyrrhenian fleet had launched a devastating surprise attack on Earth, overwhelming human defenses. Humanity had been caught unprepared. Earth's orbital stations fell, and its cities crumbled under the barrage of Tyrrhenian weaponry. The United Earth Space Force scrambled to mount a counteroffensive, but their chances looked grim. Among those called to action was Captain Stanton, a seasoned pilot tasked with leading a dangerous infiltration mission into the heart of the Tyrrhenian flagship. The mission: disable the ship's weapon systems and give Earth a fighting chance. Using advanced stealth technology, Stanton and his team boarded the massive alien warship. They fought their way through Tyrrhenian soldiers, navigating labyrinthine corridors with precision. However, an ambush split the group, leaving Stanton alone in an unfamiliar section of the ship. That was when fate intervened. Stanton stumbled upon Queen Ria's private chambers, expecting a battle. Instead, he found her collapsed on the floor, writhing in pain, her emerald skin flushed with illness. The fierce leader, the very symbol of humanity's destruction, lay at death's door. Without hesitation, his medical instincts kicked in. Ignoring the political implications, he quickly administered the antidote from his field kit. As her breathing steadied, Stanton realized the bitter truth. Ria had been poisoned by a biological agent deployed by Earth's own forces, a weapon designed to target the Tyrrhenians. Stanton felt a surge of conflicting emotions: relief at saving a life, guilt at knowing his own people had been behind this lethal attack, and fear for what would happen next. Ria's sharp, golden eyes flickered open. Confusion, pain, and anger warred in her expression as she gazed at the human who had saved her. "Why?" she rasped, her voice weak yet laced with authority. "Why would you help me?" Stanton locked eyes with her, his voice calm but firm. "Because it was the right thing to do." Before Ria could respond, alarms echoed through the ship. Outside, the battle raged on. Stanton knew his next moves could shape the future of both their species. He had saved her life, but the question remained: would Queen Ria's hatred for humanity soften, or would Stanton's compassion be repaid with a swift death? As Ria slowly sat up, regaining her composure, Stanton prepared himself for the consequences of his choice. Ria, now fully conscious, summoned her personal guard. The towering alien soldiers flanked the room, weapons at the ready, but Ria raised a hand to halt them. Her eyes never left Stanton as she stood. "You've saved my life, but that does not mean you are free from consequences. Explain yourself, human." Stanton remained calm, choosing his words carefully. "The attack on your fleet, on your people, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. The bioweapon that nearly killed you was used without the knowledge of many in Earth's government, including myself." Ria's brow furrowed. "Are you saying your own kind betrayed you? Why should I believe that?" Taking a deep breath, Stanton explained. "There's a faction on Earth, a rogue group led by General Marcus Riker. They call themselves the Terran Purity League. They believe Earth should dominate the galaxy and see any alien species as a threat. They deployed that weapon without the authorization of our leadership." Ria's expression shifted from anger to contemplation. "A rogue faction," she mused before turning to her trusted advisor, Commander Talon, who stood at her side. "Prepare an investigation. If this weapon was deployed without consent, it threatens more than just our empire. It threatens the balance of power in this galaxy." The room was tense. Stanton, though still technically an enemy, had sparked something within the Queen, an awareness of a common threat that transcended their species' rivalry. Suddenly, the ship shook violently. Stanton's team, believing him lost, had pressed forward with their mission to disable the ship's weapons. Ria's sharp gaze turned to the human captain. "Your soldiers are persistent. They're following orders," Stanton replied grimly. "If I could reach them—" "Out of the question," Talon interrupted. We cannot risk communication being intercepted. Another tremor rocked the flagship, this time more violent. Stanton rushed to the control console, quickly scanning the systems. "Wait," he muttered, piecing together an idea. "I think I can use your technology to track the bioweapon signature." Talon scoffed. "You could not possibly understand our systems." Ignoring the skepticism, Stanton's fingers danced across the alien controls. In moments, a blinking light appeared on the screen, indicating a location on Earth. "There," Stanton said, his face pale. "It's on Earth, a restricted military zone." Ria narrowed her eyes. "What does this mean?" Stanton's voice was grim. "It means the Terran Purity League is preparing another strike. One that could annihilate both our worlds." For a long moment, Ria said nothing, her mind racing with the implications. Finally, she turned to Talon. "Commander, cease all attacks on Earth. Focus our fleet on neutralizing this rogue faction." Talon hesitated, but bowed. "As you command, my queen." As the Romulan fleet reoriented, Stanton and Talon coordinated their next steps, racing against time to stop General Riker's mad plan. They prepared to land near the hidden base of the Terran Purity League, their mission clear: stop the bioweapon before it destroyed everything they both held dear. On the ground, a mix of human and Terranian soldiers deployed. Cloaked in experimental stealth suits, Stanton led them through the desert terrain toward the enemy stronghold. As they neared, gunfire erupted from hidden defenses. "Take cover," Stanton shouted as the battle intensified. 2 soldiers fell, their cloaking devices malfunctioning. Ria's forces fought alongside Stanton's team, their unlikely alliance tested under fire. As the bullets flew and the ground shook, the stakes became painfully clear. If they failed, there would be no Earth, no Terranian Empire, just devastation. Captain Stanton, Queen Ria, and their soldiers pressed forward, knowing that in this moment, the fate of both their worlds rested in their hands. The desert heat of Earth's Atacama wasteland shimmered around Captain Stanton and Queen Ria's joint forces as they crouched behind jagged rocks. Blasts of plasma fire sizzled through the air, forcing the uneasy alliance to seek cover. The Terran Purity League had been expecting them. Captain Stanton wiped sweat from his brow, glancing at the Terranian soldiers, silent and focused. He could sense their tension. This mission was more than a battle. It was a test of trust between enemies-turned-allies. Queen Ria, with her pale emerald skin gleaming under the harsh sun, stood just behind him. Despite the intense situation, she carried herself with regal calm. "We need to flank their position," Stanton muttered, more to himself than anyone else. His mind raced as he assessed the enemy's fortifications. Every second wasted meant the rogue faction in the bunker below could activate their bioweapon. Ria stepped closer, her voice low and commanding. "Your plan, Captain. We cannot afford to lose momentum." Stanton turned, locking eyes with the alien queen. There was no room for hesitation. "Not now. We'll divide into 2 teams. I'll lead my squad from the east, drawing their fire. You take your forces around the western ridge. Once we've thinned their defenses, we converge on the entrance." Ria gave a sharp nod. "Agreed. Commander Talon, relay the orders." Talon, ever dutiful, sent out the signals to the Terranian troops with a flick of his wrist. The alien soldiers began to move, their bodies blending into the rocky landscape thanks to their advanced cloaking suits. Stanton glanced at his own team of humans, their faces tense but determined. He had fought with these soldiers through thick and thin, but this was different. Their fate, Earth's fate, rested on an uneasy truce with an empire they had been at war with mere hours ago. As the team split, Stanton's group crept along the eastern side of the Purity League's base, slipping behind boulders and ridges to avoid detection. The desert sun beat down, but they pressed on. The tension in the air was suffocating, every sound amplified by the oppressive silence of the desert. A sudden explosion shattered the quiet as the Purity League's defenses opened fire. Stanton's team sprinted into position, hunkering down behind a ridge as debris rained down. He glanced through the dust at Ria's forces making their way along the opposite ridge, still unseen by the enemy. "Now!" Stanton shouted, raising his arm to signal his squad. Plasma rifles blazed to life as his team unleashed suppressing fire. Stanton sprinted to a closer rock formation, feeling the heat of enemy rounds whizzing by. He ducked just in time as an explosion tore through the air where he had stood seconds before. We've got their attention, Stanton growled through his calm. Ria, it's your move. On the western ridge, Ria's forces materialized from their cloaked positions, pouring into the base's flanks with ruthless efficiency. Her alien warriors moved like shadows, their sleek armor reflecting little of the harsh sun, each movement precise. Stanton watched through the haze of battle as they eliminated the Purity League soldiers with practiced skill. The humans, who once feared the Tyranians, now found themselves fighting shoulder to shoulder with them. Stanton's calm crackled with Ria's voice. The entrance is ours. Regroup at the bunker. Nodding, Stanton motioned for his team to advance. They sprinted across the battlefield, closing the distance as the enemy's defensive fire weakened. As they approached, the sheer scale of the underground bunker became clear. A vast, reinforced steel door, half buried in the rock face. This was no mere outpost. It was a fortress. Ria stood at the entrance, her soldiers fanned out, securing the perimeter. Stanton jogged up to her, his breath ragged. That was only the first wave. They'll have more waiting for us inside. The Queen's golden eyes gleamed with determination. Then we finish this quickly. Without hesitation, Ria nodded to Commander Talon, who placed an explosive device against the bunker door. The humans and Tyranians took cover as the charge detonated, sending a shockwave through the ground and splitting the door open with a deafening roar. Move in, Stanton ordered, his heart pounding. This was the moment they had been racing toward, but his mind was already running through the possibilities of what they might find inside. Would they be too late? Would the bioweapon already be armed? They descended into the depths of the bunker, moving through darkened halls illuminated only by flickering emergency lights. The atmosphere inside was tense and claustrophobic, the air thick with the smell of metal and dust. Stanton's senses were on high alert. The Purity League could be anywhere, and the deeper they ventured, the clearer it became that this base was far more advanced than they had anticipated. The corridors twisted like a maze, leading them deeper underground, into the heart of the enemy stronghold. Multiple life signs up ahead, Talon whispered, his voice tight with urgency. They're waiting for us? Get ready, Stanton warned his team, gripping his rifle tightly. As they rounded the corner, they came face to face with a heavily fortified command center. Dozens of Purity League soldiers were stationed around glowing consoles, while in the center of the room stood General Marcus Riker, the mastermind behind the bioweapon. Riker, a tall, broad man with a scar running down the side of his face, smirked as he saw Stanton and Ria's forces enter. Ah, the infamous Captain Stanton, Riker said, his voice dripping with contempt. And the alien queen herself. How poetic. Riker, Stanton growled, stepping forward. This ends now. The general's smirk widened. Oh, it ends all right, but not how you think. He gestured to a large screen behind him, which showed a countdown timer rapidly approaching 0. In just a few minutes, the bioweapon will launch, and Earth and the Tyranians will be nothing but ash. You can't stop it. Ria's eyes narrowed. You're willing to destroy your own planet for some misguided ideal? Riker shrugged. Earth will rise from the ashes, pure and untouched by alien influence. Humanity was never meant to share the stars with creatures like you. Stanton's mind raced. The bioweapon was armed, and they were out of time. There was no stopping this from the command center alone. I'll handle Riker, Stanton muttered to Ria. You and Talon, find the control room for the weapon. We can't let that launch happen. Without waiting for a reply, Stanton charged forward, his rifle raised. Riker's soldiers opened fire, but Stanton was faster, weaving through the chaos, his mind focused solely on reaching the general. Riker smirked, drawing his own weapon. Let's see if you've still got that hero spirit, Captain. With the future of two civilizations hanging in the balance, Captain Stanton knew the battle for survival had truly begun. Captain Stanton darted between consoles, dodging plasma fire as General Marcus Riker soldiers filled the command center with chaos. Sparks flew from shattered screens, and the air crackled with the acrid scent of burning wires. The countdown timer for the bioweapon ticked on ominously. 5 minutes to detonation. Across the room, General Riker calmly strode toward the central console, his eyes filled with ruthless determination. He didn't need to rush. He believed the clock was on his side. Ria, the alien queen, moved with fierce grace, her emerald skin glowing faintly in the dim light. Her alien soldiers, led by Commander Talon, surged into the room with brutal efficiency. But Stanton knew the real battle wasn't with the soldiers. They had to stop the bioweapon. Stanton gritted his teeth, making his way toward the central platform where Riker stood. "General," Stanton shouted over the din, "this ends here." Riker turned, that smug smile still plastered on his face. "Oh, Stanton, you're too late. Humanity's future doesn't need cowards like you. It needs men willing to make hard choices. Hard choices don't mean genocide." Stanton fired a shot, but Riker dodged, using a nearby console as cover. The general's laughter echoed through the room. "You still don't get it, do you?" Riker shouted. "Humans will never be equals to these things." He spat the word, gesturing toward Ria's forces. "We're meant to rule, not bow." Stanton pressed forward, his blood boiling. "You've lost your mind. This is a war you can't win." Riker ducked behind the command console, pulling out a small handheld device. Stanton's eyes widened. That wasn't just any weapon. It was a control module, the key to the bioweapon's activation sequence. "Riker, stop!" Stanton bellowed. But before he could react, a plasma bolt struck him square in the side, sending him crashing to the ground. His vision blurred with pain as he clutched his wound, feeling the warmth of his own blood seeping through his uniform. "Stanton's!" Ria's voice rang out across the chaos, sharp with concern. Her golden eyes flicked between him and the unfolding situation. With a growl of pain, Stanton forced himself to his feet, adrenaline coursing through his veins. He couldn't stop now, not when Earth's survival, and Ria's, depended on it. Meanwhile, across the room, Ria and Talon moved swiftly, cutting through Riker's soldiers like phantoms. Their alien weaponry hummed with energy as they incapacitated enemies with precision. Ria's focus remained unyielding, her eyes never leaving the path toward the bioweapons control center. "Captain," Talon's voice crackled through Stanton's earpiece. "We've found the weapon's core, but we can't override it without access to the main console. We need more time." Time. Stanton's heart sank. Time was something they didn't have. Riker's countdown was closing in, 3 minutes left. Stanton pushed himself forward, ignoring the searing pain in his side. He had to stop Riker before he triggered the final sequence. The general loomed above the control console, his hand hovering over the activation button on the handheld device. "Riker!" Stanton's voice thundered across the room, full of raw determination. The general paused, turning towards Stanton with a sneer. "Still standing, Captain? I'm impressed. Why are you doing this?" Stanton demanded, his eyes blazing. "You're destroying the planet you claim to love. You're dooming us all." Riker's expression darkened. "I'm saving humanity, Stanton. We've lost our way, letting aliens like her." He nodded toward Ria. "Corrupt our world. This is the only way to cleanse Earth. There won't be anything left to save." Stanton shouted, stepping closer. "You think this weapon will purify Earth? It'll kill everyone. Human, alien, it doesn't matter. You're willing to wipe out your own people for your hatred." Riker's eyes narrowed. "Weak men like you will never understand. Sacrifice is necessary." Stanton's mind raced. Talking wasn't enough. He needed to act. In a split second, he made his decision. Drawing his sidearm, he fired a single shot, aiming for the control module in Riker's hand. The shot hit its mark, shattering the device in a shower of sparks. Riker's eyes widened in shock, but the damage had been done. The module was destroyed, but the countdown kept ticking. "Fool!" Riker spat, lunging toward the main console. "You think you've stopped me? The sequence is already in motion. Destroying the device won't change that." Stanton's heart pounded. He staggered forward, his side burning, knowing he only had moments to act. The countdown showed 2 minutes remaining. As Riker frantically tried to reconfigure the controls, Stanton locked eyes with Ria. In that instant, no words were needed. They had to work together. This was their final chance. "Cover me!" Stanton barked, racing toward the console as Ria leaped into action, her soldiers suppressing Riker's remaining men with a barrage of plasma fire. Stanton skidded to the console and scanned the alien symbols flashing across the screen. It wasn't just a human interface. It had been reprogrammed with alien tech, Terrenian tech. "Ria!" Stanton shouted. "I need you!" Without hesitation, Ria sprinted to his side, her fingers flying over the unfamiliar controls. "This is Terrenian technology," she muttered. "But it's been altered. Can you stop it?" Stanton asked, his voice tight with urgency. Ria frowned, her golden eyes narrowing. "I can try, but the override is deeply embedded. We may not have enough time. 1 minute left." Talon's voice crackled through the comms. Stanton gripped the console, feeling the weight of 2 civilizations pressing down on his shoulders. His mind raced. There had to be another way. Then it hit him. The weapon wasn't designed to just explode, it was designed to launch. If they couldn't deactivate it, maybe they could redirect it. "Ria, listen," Stanton said, his voice low but intense. "We can't shut it down in time, but we can reroute the launch. We can send it into deep space instead of Earth." Ria glanced at him, a flicker of hope crossing her face. "You're right. If I can change the trajectory, it'll fire harmlessly into the void." "Do it," Stanton urged, his pulse racing. The alien queen's fingers danced over the console with lightning speed. Sweat beaded on Stanton's forehead as the final seconds ticked away. The room seemed to close in on them, the weight of impending destruction suffocating. 10 seconds, Talon yelled. "Almost there," Ria muttered, her voice strained. She entered the final command, and the console beeped in confirmation. The countdown hit 0. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Stanton held his breath, his eyes fixed on the display. Then, with a deafening roar, the weapon launched, but instead of hurtling toward Earth, it shot skyward, vanishing into the endless expanse of space. Stanton exhaled in relief, his legs giving out as he collapsed against the console. "We did it," he breathed. Ria turned to him, a small, triumphant smile playing on her lips. "We did." But before they could celebrate, a cold, seething voice broke through the air. "This isn't over, Stanton." General Riker, wounded but still standing, sneered from across the room, clutching a plasma pistol. "You may have delayed the inevitable, but you can't stop what's coming." Without warning, he raised the gun, aiming directly at Ria. "No!" Stanton shouted, instinctively throwing himself in front of the Queen. The shot rang out, searing pain exploding through his chest as he crumpled to the ground. "Captain!" Ria screamed, dropping to his side, her hands trembling as she pressed against his wound. Blood pooled beneath him, and his vision began to fade. "Stanton," she whispered urgently, her voice breaking. "Stay with me." He coughed, blood staining his lips. "Ria, you have to stop him." His hand weakly gripped hers. "Don't let Earth fall." Ria's eyes burned with fury as she rose, her focus shifting to Riker, who stood smirking. Without a word, she summoned every ounce of her strength and unleashed a surge of energy from her wrist-mounted gauntlet. The blast hit Riker square in the chest, sending him crashing into the wall. The smug look on his face twisted into one of shock and pain as he crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Ria knelt beside Stanton again, her heart pounding as she cradled his head. His breaths were shallow, his pulse fading. "You can't leave me, Stanton," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Not after everything." As the world around him grew dim, Stanton managed a faint smile. "Didn't think I'd go out like this," he murmured. Ria's eyes filled with unshed tears. "You won't. I won't let you." Talon's voice came through the comms. "Medical team now." "The captain's down." Stanton's vision darkened as the sounds of battle faded into nothingness. But just before the blackness consumed him, he heard Ria's voice, fierce and full of determination. "Hold on, Stanton. You're not dying today. And then, everything went quiet.